अगर डिजिटल ट्रांजैक्शन फेल हो जाए, अगर अकाउंट से पैसे कट जाएं, तो बैंक समय से पैसे लौटा देगा, वरना कॉम्पनसेशन का है प्रावधान। नहीं तो आरबीआई के ओम्बुड्समैन को शिकायत करें आप।
या बिल,
मेरी फीस। आरबीआई कहता है,
जानकार बनिए, सतर्क रहिए।
Get in-depth analysis of the important news of the day. Spotlight on day's newsmakers. Expert comments to dissect the news. Get the finer points of the matter. Watch Dateline 5 p.m. on weekdays on DD India.
welcome. It is 7:30 in the evening in India and we are back again with a spotlight on G20. Did you know that India is the third largest producer of renewable energy in the world? It has the fourth largest installed wind energy capacity and the fifth largest solar installed capacity. India has the fastest growing renewable energy capacity in the world. At the Voice of Global South Summit hosted by India recently, India announced that it will launch a global biofuel alliance under G20. On India at G20 today, we ask, will India as G20 president present its clean energy transition credentials to the world to help further global energy security in a sustainable way? I'm Anand Bhattacharya. Let's get straight to the focus of the day. As G20 president for 2023, India holds the key to revitalizing global commitments to energy transition and spearheading the collective voice of developing nations that aspire to be developed in a sustainable and equitable manner. G20 presidency is also a crucial opportunity for India to showcase on the platform its commitment and action on the numerous international pledges that it has taken in different fora. Here's a look at how India is making the clean energy transition and how it is preparing to be the voice of the global south in G20 in the realm of energy security.
ग्रीन हाइड्रोजन के क्षेत्र के लक्ष्य की प्राप्ति के लिए मैं आज इस तिरंगे की साक्षी में नेशनल हाइड्रोजन मिशन की घोषणा कर रहा हूं। अमृतकाल में हमें भारत को ग्रीन हाइड्रोजन के प्रोडक्शन और एक्सपोर्ट का ग्लोबल हब बनाना है।
Prime Minister Narendra Modi announcing the National Hydrogen Mission in his Independence Day address on 15th August 2021. The Union Cabinet earlier this year approved the National Green Hydrogen Mission with the objectives of decarbonizing major economic sectors, making India energy independent and serving as an inspiration for the global clean energy transition. The mission aims to provide a comprehensive action plan for establishing a green hydrogen ecosystem. Having signed pacts for development of green hydrogen with Denmark, Australia and Germany in 2022, India is intent on making green hydrogen an enabler to fulfill its aspirations for a low-carbon and self-reliant economy. India's experiences, best practices and cutting-edge technology in the fields of hydrogen, solar and biofuels are now set to be highlighted and shared on the G20 forum. This was stated by Union Petroleum and Natural Gas Minister Hardeep Singh Puri at the Voice of Global South Summit hosted virtually by India early this month.
We stand ready to share our experience and best practice with partner countries of the Global South so that together we can translate our climate pledges into action. We look forward to your support in complementing each other's strength to make it more meaningful.
At the summit, the Union Minister also underscored the associated benefits of biofuels, solar, One Sun, One World, One Grid initiative and sought support from partners of Global South towards creating Global Biofuel Alliance under G20 and joining the International Solar Alliance to strengthen the cooperation in renewable energy.
It is well established that biofuels have associated benefits such as providing a viable alternative to fossil fuels, waste to wealth creation, managing agricultural and municipal waste, decarbonizing transport sector. All these are issues with which the countries of the Global South are grappling with. To resolve the common concerns of the Global South, India is also proposing a Global Biofuels Alliance under the G20. The aim of the alliance is to support projects in order to increase the deployment of biofuels and its related technology.
On Tuesday, the Union Minister tweeted about his ride on an inland water vessel on the magnificent and mighty Brahmaputra in Guwahati. Hardeep Puri's vessel was powered by methanol blended diesel. Just like the National Green Hydrogen Mission and methanol blended diesel, India has been undertaking path-breaking initiatives in the realm of clean energy transition. Among the recent ones is the declaration of Modhera village in Gujarat as India's first 24/7 solar-powered village. This initiative came about from a program led by both the central government and the state government of Gujarat called the Solarization of Modhera Sun Temple and Town. As part of the project, a ground-mounted solar power plant has been developed in addition to installing 1,300 rooftop solar systems on top of residential and government buildings. Solar energy is thus available to Modhera round the clock. At the global level, India and France jointly conceived the International Solar Alliance to mobilize efforts against climate change through deployment of solar energy solutions. All member states of the United Nations are eligible to join ISA, and at present 110 countries are signatories to the ISA Framework Agreement. The spotlight in G20 energy deliberations in India will be on how India will steer energy transition as G20 president. Bureau Report, DD India.
And for perspective, we are being joined by Dinesh Dayanand Jagdale. He is Joint Secretary in the Ministry of New and Renewable Energy, and Narendra Taneja, energy expert and economist. It's a pleasure to welcome the two of you on India at G20. Mr. Jagdale, I want to begin with you, and I want to ask you that how does India plan to steer energy transition, not just at the domestic level, but at the global level through G20, because the current climate crisis requires that all economies accelerate that transition. The developed countries must, and the developing world must be helped to make that transition.
Thank you. Good evening to all of you. It's a pleasure, and I once again thank you for calling me on your show. As a citizen of this country, I am proud to be a part of this journey where India is taking this presidency. It's a proud moment for all of us as citizens of this country. And to answer your question, if you really look at the India's progress, and if you look at the commitment that the Indian government has given to the aspirational climate goals, these climate goals have been widely acknowledged by various nations. Our achievements have matched our ambition. India has the fastest growing renewable energy capacity in the world, and India has also emerged as one of the most attractive destinations for investments in renewable energy. So if you look at today's situation, we have more than 167 gigawatt of renewables that have been installed in a grid that is 408 gigawatt of capacity. Whatever we said in 2015, we have achieved 9 years ahead of schedule in terms of the capacities that we expected to grow in 2030. We have already achieved in 2021. So as a country, we have demonstrated our commitment. As a government of this, as a Ministry of New and Renewable Energy, we have taken several steps. And all these steps are widely recognized. And if you really look at the recent rankings of the Climate Change Performance Index 2023, India ranked at the top position amongst the G20 countries. So we have shown the way, we have shown our path. we are actually delivering what we had promised and what we are actually bringing to the international phenomenon. Now it is the time during this presidency, we will definitely like to take this and as a part of the energy transition working group, we have several priorities that we have set under the India G20 presidency. Not only renewable energy capacity addition, but various other technology collaborations on the aspects of biofuels, on the aspect of supply chains, and also on the aspect of the decentralized renewable energy. We are all taking that forward and we will showcase the world about our progress and how we as collective nations of G20 can progress towards green energy transition.
Right, Mr. Taneja, you must have heard from the Joint Secretary on the priorities of India as far as the Energy Working Group is concerned. Is India on the right track to help the world, including the Global South, steer the energy transition that the world requires?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, when you look at the ground reality in terms of India's initiatives in renewables, renewable means solar, wind, even offshore wind now, and of course green hydrogen, biofuels, ethanol, and even nuclear, because in India we look upon nuclear also as a green source of energy. I mean, you look at the whole thing, you look at our record, for instance, I mean, India's record. Today the fact is, whether it's global north or the global south, India is leading. We are among the top 5 countries delivering, walking the talk. Whatever, for instance, India has, committed, whether in Paris or Glasgow or Sharm el-Sheikh, or for that matter in G20 summits in other places, we have walked the talk. And that is the result that today we have now acquired this moral authority to talk about, for instance, how the transition from conventional or fossil fuel to renewable should actually be taking place. If you recall the Prime Minister's speech at G7 summit in Germany, Prime Minister spoke on behalf of the entire global South. And that's why the G7, there were no alternative but to take not only notice of it, actually even come out with some kind of solution. The same go for G20 summit in Bali. If you remember the Prime Minister's speech there, he again was there as the representative of the entire global South. The people who are battling with energy poverty, people who need affordable energy, and we have also seen Ukraine. Energy is right on the very top of the agenda globally, and at the same time, when it comes to climate, we are taking the lead. India is talking 2 reasons. First, we have of course committed to the Paris Agreement that we are a signatory to. At the same time, we are a densely populated country. Look at India's ancient history and thoughts. We have always, been extremely sensitive to nature. And that's why idea is to mobilize affordable energy for every single Indian. And, Ujjwala scheme an example of that, but at the same time, making sure that we are not contaminating, air or water or earth and so on and so forth. That's part of the India's, traditional way of thinking. So we are bringing technology now, the best technology available, and mobilizing capital. If you look at, for instance, the capital India is deployed in renewables and green hydrogen and so on and so forth. I mean, we are among the top 3 in the world. And India is probably the only, I have no hesitation in saying that, India is the only country today, whether global north or global south, which has actually started delivering and has been walking the talk practically on every single thing. And that's what emphasized also, in the Sharm el-Sheikh, COP summit. The point I'm trying to drive home is that, we are not only leading. Look at, for instance, the capacity we are creating now in order to emerge as a global leader. Global leader in terms of ideas, when we talk about biofuel alliance or in solar alliance, when it comes to factories we are building now in Gujarat and many other parts of the world, capacity so that, we will have sufficient hardware, equipment and cells and panels available for domestic consumption, at the same time for exports to the Middle East, to Africa, to Latin America, and even to Europe and other developed economy. So when you look at all the entire work that's happening, and the leads which the center has taken, also luckily the lead that state governments are taking, I think that is path-breaking. And that's why it makes me very, very optimistic that when it comes to, green energy, when it comes to the transition, I think we are not taking lead only politically or diplomatically or economically. We are taking lead in terms of emerging as a major hub, of producing green energy for domestic consumption and for the transition, and at the same time emerging as a major manufacturing hub for technology, equipment, panels, etc., for, for the whole world. So I think the world is watching. World is coming also investing in India. If you look at the investment, the last 12 months that have come in renewables, like in solar, and the investment that is in the pipeline for offshore wind. Offshore wind is basically you set up these power plants, which are either floating or they are basically in the sea, grounded there. So it's a major development which you're going to see on the East Coast in particular. Then it goes to the West Coast. So I think a lot is is happening, and that's what when our government and leaders go and G20 summit and all that, what we talk basically is all based on what the same delegates can come and see on the ground in different parts of the country. And that's why, this idea of solar alliance, which was India and France idea, and now idea of biofuel alliance, these are getting tremendous traction. Traction simply, especially from the developing country. Most developing countries, the global south, are small, they don't have resources or they don't have the skill. They're looking up to India now for the leadership. And that's precisely what India is trying to provide in terms of diplomatic leadership, political leadership, but at the same time, technology and wherever possible, even capital.
Okay. Mr. Jagdale, let's come to specific deliverables now. Hardeep Puri, the Union and Natural Gas and Petroleum Minister, announced at the Voice of Global South Summit that India will be coming up with a global alliance on biofuels. In another event, he mentioned two countries with which India is going to launch this, United States of America and Brazil. Can you tell us the kind of shape that this alliance is going to take and what are the targets that India plans to set?
Yeah, thank you. Actually, this the Global Alliance, and as you are aware, that we had a very successful International Solar Alliance that was launched under the aegis of this ministry as a part of a co-founding member in 2015. And since then, the International Solar Alliance has taken aggressive steps in promoting solar and overall renewable energy as a subject, and is also a part of the IOs that have been invited and is taking very active part in this G20 deliberations as well. And as we were seeing in the documentary that you showed, the Global Alliance on Biofuels is a subject, is an idea that has been now proposed under the Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas, and they are taking this particular alliance on the similar lines of the International Solar Alliance to the world. Obviously, we all do believe that biofuels is a very, very alternative fuel that is now India has been promoting in terms of ethanol, compressed biogas as well. And therefore, it is on these lines, and that to bring in the energy security part, reduce the import content in the overall energy mix of this country. The biofuels are going to play a very, very critical role, and on that lines, this Global Alliance on Biofuels is being proposed. I think as we move forward, there will be deliberations on this, and I do expect that this will go a long way in creating a very good ecosystem for the entire world to look at the energy transition.
Now, India has signed bilateral pacts with Denmark, Australia and Germany on research and development, on deployment and manufacturing of green hydrogen. In January this year, that is this very month, we saw that the Union Cabinet approved the National Green Hydrogen Mission. Is India going to pitch this, because India aims to become the world's biggest producer and exporter of green hydrogen in the years to come? There are specific targets that India has set for 2030. 6 lakh jobs to be created, 8 lakh crore of investment that has been announced. So what is India looking at under the G20 platform as far as green hydrogen is concerned?
Under our leadership, and that's a very important fuel and a feedstock that we are now promoting, you have seen that the way the renewable energy has made progress, but we do understand that there is a considerable, sizable population of industries and other resources that need decarbonization. There are sectors which are very difficult to abate in terms of the emissions, and those sectors prominently will be the beneficiaries of this green hydrogen. Today, India has abundant resources in terms of the wind and the solar, and we all know that. We have seen the progress. So on that lines, and I think there are several achievements that we will talk about. But one, we declared our net zero, that we will like to achieve net zero emissions by 2070. Our growth story unfolds that the demand for energy and resources is set to rise. So energy has doubled in the past 20 years, is likely to grow at another 25% by 2030. So one is obviously we are importing a lot of content. So for green hydrogen as a technology, as a fuel, as a feedstock in various processes, we have come up with a mission. The mission talks about at least addition of 5 million metric tons. That is the production of 5 million metric tons at least by 2030, which under the green hydrogen mission. It also enables 125 gigawatt of renewable energy capacity addition. And you talked about the jobs and the type of investments that are being considered here. It's a phenomenal mission. The government has allocated around 19,744 crores to this mission. This is a substantial support and investment that India has been providing. And I think this particular mission is going to be a path-breaking, and this is a showcase for the entire world that how a country can now needs progress. And we are going to take this under our energy transition working group on two aspects. One is we are going to also try and deliberate on the principles on green hydrogen. What are those broad principles that all G20 countries should agree upon? We are also working on harmonizing the regulatory codes and standards. And also we are trying to address the technology gaps that exist today by technology collaborations among G20 countries. You just referred to some of the pacts that we have signed, but we also have been representing and has taken leadership in various initiatives under the Quad Strategic Partnership. We have several bilateral partnerships with various countries, and through this leadership platform, through this green hydrogen mission, we will be able to not only meet our domestic demand, we will also be able to become one of the major exporters of green hydrogen. That will not only enable India as a country to meet our targets in terms of decarbonization, in terms of our net zero target, but also will provide a lot of resource that other countries will be struggling at the cost competitiveness that India can really contribute. So this is going to be a path breaking. We will demonstrate our success stories in terms of renewable energy. We will demonstrate what we are going to do through the green hydrogen mission, and we will take everybody along. Our effort has been to talk to our partners across all the G20 member countries, and together I think this is a very exciting year where we will be deliberating amongst several countries, and we have the first energy transition working group meeting coming ahead during the 5th and 6th of February in Bangalore. We look forward to meet our partners and discuss on all these priority areas, including the the green hydrogen that we all talk about. Thank you.
Right. Mr. Taneja, we heard from Mr. Jagdale, who also spoke about how the clean energies that India is producing, or the technologies that India is producing, are cost effective in nature. Would you say that another issue that requires deliberations is how do you raise more capital for financing clean energy technologies and infrastructure, because clearly more and more investment in such technologies are needed, and the developed world has not come good on its promises on climate finance, for instance, but there are multilateral development institutions that do lend. What more needs to be done in order to ensure that there is adequate capital around the world for such transition?
A very interesting question, and actually the most important question. You see, the point is that, globally speaking, hydrogen is evolving. It's still an evolving sector globally, not only in India, the entire world. And India is investing heavily in it. Many other countries are investing, and we are all collaborating, and we are all learning at the same time. But that said, at the same time, you see, bulk of R&D so far when it comes to renewables has been happening in what is known as the global north. But at the same time, when you look at capabilities or capacity for that matter, countries like India and Brazil and a few others, they also have the capability and the capacity. What they need is basically capital which has been promised by the under the Paris Agreement and other similar agreements. The global north has promised, but global north has failed to walk the talk. What they promised, for instance, would come to in total about $1.2 trillion, what they owe to the global south. And what they have actually delivered so far is just a minuscule, very small part of that. So this R&D, research and development, when it comes to renewables, when it comes to hydrogen, green hydrogen, etc., it has to be a joint effort. We need to kind of set up the joint R&D facilities, with capital coming, bulk of capital coming from the global north, because they are historically responsible for the emissions. So at the same time, they are promised in writing. So they need to walk the talk, and we need to keep talking about this factor Though we are taking our own initiative, we are investing a lot of money, but at the same time, it's important we have access to their capital, what you refer to. But that said, at the same time, I think the important thing we have to remember, the global, on the planet, there are 3 billion energy poor. And there are lots of energy poor in our country, also in our part of the world. So it's the responsibility of the global north to understand, while we are taking serious, steps in the direction of, decarbonize our economy, but they also need to understand we share the same planet. It's important that whatever they promise, they are so-called developed country, if they are developed society, they must walk the talk and they must transfer what they have promised to, so that in countries like India and Brazil, we can have more in R&D and share the research and development with the fellow global south countries. What happened today when it comes to technology for renewables, technology for, decarbonizing is very expensive, because bulk of that has been developed by them, and they are now basically putting a bill even to that. They're even saying that whatever technology we have developed, we deliver to you, but then whatever we owe to you, that will be basically taken away, discounted from that. That's a very poor logic. So countries like India have taken the lead. Today we are leading, as the global south, we are leading when it comes to missions like, decarbonizing global economy and all that. But at the same time, we have to make sure every single Indian has access to affordable energy. So transition in India is going to take its own time, is going to be on India's terms and conditions, is going to be connected with the ground realities of India. But that said, at the same time, it's important that the steps we have already taken, the direction that we are showing to the world, particularly to the global south, we get the kind of cooperation and the kind of, collaboration we expect from the global north. So far, I'm sorry to say it, they make promises, but when it comes to the real delivery, the record of global north has been very, very poor. The time has come when they should transfer technology, they should transfer capital, and we should set up R&D, facilities in the global south, in countries like India, for hydrogen, for renewables, for offshore, and so on and so forth, in countries like India, Brazil, and for that matter, other countries, so that we can actually move in that direction.
Right.
And we can together work for, decarbonized world.
So Mr. Jagdale, is raising capital for financing green investments going to be an imponderable under India's G20 presidency? And are investors looking at some sort of a risk mitigation fund at the same time to secure their investments in developing countries? Is a mechanism like that on the table?
So there are 2 tracks, as you are aware, under the G20, and our effort in the energy transition working group is exactly to really, one is to identify what is the amount of capital that is required for the global energy transition to meet the 2030 and beyond deadlines. And obviously there are 4, we classify technologies into, one is mature and one which are emerging. And obviously, as we have been discussing, there are emerging technologies which are key to energy transition. Obviously, if we take those names, we can talk about offshore wind, we talk about green hydrogen, we talk about carbon capture, utilization and storage. We also talk about the battery storage, and all these 4 key technologies would be critical. And unless we support in the fashion that it is required to bring in volumes and scale and technology improvements, obviously these will aid the faster energy transition. So what we are doing under the energy transition working group is, one, we are trying to identify what is the capital that is required to be deployed across nations to meet their individual commitments that they have really looked at. And through this mechanism, we will also then try to understand what exactly needs to be done.
Okay.
But we also have a climate track, as you are aware. There is a lot of deliberation that will happen under that track as well. But under the energy transition group, we are really looking forward to really deliberate on what is the amount of capital, and we have started our studies. We will be having our first session, as I said, in the coming weeks, and we will take this. We'll have a consolidated report and understanding on what exactly the sources of finance and the quantum of finance is required.
Thank you so much, Mr. Jagdale and Mr. Taneja, for joining us and sharing your perspective, particularly on the Energy Transition Working Group, which will be meeting in February in Bengaluru. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
And with that, we come to the close of this edition of India at G20. We'll see you again tomorrow, same time on DD India. Thanks for watching.
you think the politician's stereotypical perception has changed in this journey of yours?
Definitely, what was earlier and now what is today has a vast difference. Even if you see the education profile, the social background and many other things in Parliament, where there are more than 900 members, many are on their own, without family background, without muscle power, without money power, without caste benefit also. But if you have a passion, if you have determination, discipline, dedication, and if you are ready to improve yourself every day,
जैसे सही वजन से ग्राहक होते हैं खुश, वैसे ही सही सुरक्षा से परिवार होता है कल की चिंता से मुक्त। इसलिए मेरी मानो, आज ही जुड़िए प्रधानमंत्री जीवन ज्योति बीमा योजना और प्रधानमंत्री सुरक्षा बीमा योजना से, जो देती हैं 2-2 लाख रुपए का बीमा। दिखाइए समझदारी, निभाइए जिम्मेदारी।
आज ही अपनी नजदीकी बैंक शाखा या डाकघर जाकर इन योजनाओं से जुड़ें।
You've seen them during Republic Day parade performing daredevil stunts in their white uniform, and I'm sure your hearts have been filled with pride and awe for them. Hello and welcome to Y Factor. I'm Shreya Upadhyay, and if you still have not guessed it, today on Y Factor we are meeting with a group of very special daredevils because we are meeting the Border Security Forces Jambaz team. Today we'll talk to them about why they do what they do, what are their fears, how do they overcome their fears, and what's the most exciting part of their job. Well, come January and it is the season of patriotism. It is the month of our Republic Day, and who better
than the Jabaz team, the daredevils of the BSF to talk to when it comes to India's brave hearts, India showing courage and all the daredevil stunts that they do. Let's talk to them about what challenges they face and how they overcome it and what their journey ahead is. आपका क्या नाम है?
जी मैं कांस्टेबल सुधाकर यादव।
सुधाकर जी, आप कितने साल से ये कर रहे हैं?
मैं कंटिन्यू 11 साल से इस टीम में हूँ।
11 साल से। तो शुरू में जो आपकी कुछ हेजिटेशन रही होगी बाइक चलाने में, उस पे स्टंट करने में, कि उसके बारे में कुछ बताइए, जो डर था आपके मन में।
जी मैम, स्टार्टिंग में तो केवल हम बाइक को केवल राइड कर पाते थे, बाकी अगर स्टंट की बात करें तो हम आके यहीं पे सीखा है। और स्टार्टिंग में हमें कुछ भी नहीं आता, इवन सीट पे खड़ा होना भी नहीं आता था। तो आने के बाद में यहाँ पे सारी मतलब सब कुछ हमने सीखा है यहाँ पे। और 16 दिसंबर को, अभी 16 दिसंबर 2022 को इस सीढ़ी पे हमने 12 फीट 10 इंच की सीढ़ी पे टीम कैप्टन सर के साथ में कंटिन्यू 2 घंटा 21 मिनट चला के हमने वर्ल्ड रिकॉर्ड बनाया है।
सुपर, कांग्रेचुलेशंस उस वर्ल्ड रिकॉर्ड के लिए और बाकी जो अचीवमेंट्स आप लोग अचीव कर चुके हैं। बट जैसे इन्होंने, सुधाकर जी ने बताया कि एक इनिशियल हेजिटेशन होती है, उसको ओवरकम करते हैं। आपके भी मन में बहुत डर रहा होगा। बाइक तो चलिए एक चला लेते हैं, बट बाइक पे स्टंट करना वो भी एक बहुत बड़ी बात है। वो आपने कैसे ओवरकम किया और क्या चैलेंजेस आप लोगों ने फेस किए?
मैडम, इसमें दिक्कत तो बहुत ज़्यादा आई, लेकिन हमारे से पहले जो टीम में थे उन्होंने सिखाया हमारे को अच्छी तरीके से। कई बंदों को तो चोट भी लगी है, कई जवान के चोट चाट लगने की वजह से काफ़ी मतलब दिक्कत आई, लेकिन फिर भी हमने उसको स्ट्रगल करके अपना सीखा और बढ़िया हमने।
चोट लगती है तो क्या चीज़ आपको वापस उठाती है? क्या है वो जोश जो आपको वापस उठाकर बोलता है कि नहीं, फिर से ट्राई करूंगा?
ये तो मैडम जोश तो अंदर से होता है, क्योंकि जोश एक तो हम BSF में भर्ती हो गए तो उससे अलग ही एक, और सिविल में BSF के प्रति इतनी इज्जत है, उसको देख के जोश और भी हो जाता है। और पब्लिक इतना हमारे को वो करती है लाइक, तो इसलिए जोश इतना होता है।
अन्य जवान फिट इंडिया के संदेश हॉरिजॉन्टल बार एक्सरसाइज। बिल्कुल,
एक पब्लिक में जो प्राइड वाली फीलिंग आती है जब वो आप सबको देखते हैं रिपब्लिक डे परेड पे, वो तो खैर अलग ही एक जज्बा होता है। एंड द काइंड ऑफ डेयरडेविल स्टंट्स दे परफॉर्म ऑन राजपथ एवरी रिपब्लिक डे, एक वो भी देखने वाली बात होती है जब ये लोग सब निकलते हैं रोड पे while they are together performing. You know, we are talking about challenges कि आप कैसे, चाहे चोट लगती है, चाहे बाकी जो स्टंट्स में रिस्क्स होते हैं, डेंजर होता है, वो आपने फील किए होंगे आई एम श्योर, बट उनको ओवरकम कैसे किया इतने सालों में?
मेरा मैडम वैसे टीम में ज़्यादा दिन नहीं हुआ, ज़्यादा साल 2-3 साल आया हूँ, लेकिन हमारा जो गुरु है जैसे अवधेश साहब है, टीम का और भी बहुत मेंबर्स है, उनका सिखलाई और हमारे अंदर का जो जज्बा है, एटलीस्ट हम लोग BSF में हैं तो हमारा फैमिली से है, तो फैमिली से जो इनकरेज मिलता है, हमारा टीम से जो इनकरेज मिलता है, उसके वजह से हमारे अंदर से इतना पावर आता है और हम लोग कर पाते हैं।
आप कहाँ से हैं?
मैं वेस्ट बंगाल से हूँ मैडम।
अच्छा, फैमिली को आपने मेंशन किया, फैमिली ने कभी एक वो हेजिटेशन दिखाई कि तुम स्टंट कर रहे हो, डेंजर है, रिस्क इन्वॉल्व है, वो कभी आया फैमिली की तरफ से?
हाँ मैडम, फैमिली तो डरता ही है, मम्मी पापा है तो लोग डरता है कि